Hello there, great person. This is me after reading Dune. And yeah, it's Dune. So I prepared something first. The first thing I will do is I will show you my unboxing of my Dune series of books, which I ordered, and you will see my stupid comments, and I got nearly everything wrong there, but it's perhaps quite funny for you to see it. If you don't want to watch that, skip about 10 minutes into the video. I will start the review there. I will first do a spoiler-free part, and I will then go into more detail. And what that detail will be is I will talk about what I thought about things. So it's perhaps not really a review, but my thoughts on many things in Dune. I will talk to you about perhaps something about the antagonists, protagonists that I liked, and about the writing and what I got from certain things. I will tell you what my favorite characters were, my favorite chapters were, perhaps characters I didn't like, and I will also perhaps try to guess what will happen in Dune Messiah. I'm on that right now. So let's just enjoy this. Well, you will hopefully enjoy this. Well, hello there, great person, and yeah, welcome to this preview of my Dune review. So I'm filming this before I do anything, like read the books. I won't do that yet, but I bought the books, and I will just, look at the covers and guess a bit, and let's see how it turns out, and if there will be something that I can already guess. Perhaps it's just a black cover or something like that, but yeah, so I bought this set. I don't know if you know this one. It's from Amazon. I hope it's the right one, and yeah, it's quite big. So yeah, a lot to read and a lot of good stuff to read, and I really will probably enjoy it. So it has this strange eye on the front. This is an eye, and there is, I think, dust. I'm not very sure. Might be dust from space, so it might be a nebula or something like that, or stardust, and it might also be dust from the desert, because Dune is the desert planet, and I know it's got another name, and I've read that in my comments, and yeah, so it says Frank Herbert's Dune saga. It is possible that Dune is even more relevant now than when it was published, from the New Yorker, and it's books 1 to 6. Here, and it's the wrong way around, but yeah, it's because I invert my camera. So we've got a little text here, and I'll just read it because you can't read it because it's the wrong way around. But yeah, so it's saying, in the far future, on a remote planet, an epic adventure awaits. Oh, adventure is good. And yeah, it's the trailers did have some very interesting hints at adventures, and I'm really looking forward to see if it's an adventure of one person or of a group of people. And yeah, so here are the first 6 novels of Frank Herbert's magnificent Dune saga, a triumph of the imagination and one of the best-selling science fiction series of all time. That's nice. So I didn't realize it was this big, but I mean, they are doing a movie about it that's quite big, so yeah. Includes books 1 to 6. Dune, that's the one I think the movie is gonna be about. Dune Messiah. So it's again, Messiah is like a prophecy person, perhaps. The prophet. Might be a prophet, might be the girl we saw in the trailer, I don't know. Children of Dune. So that might be the next generation of Dune. So the first 2 books might be or the first, perhaps every book is in another time period, like 5 or 6 years after the events, because yeah, it's a bit illogical if events always happen. Has to be a very pretty big event to happen if it happens in such quick succession. And yeah, the God Emperor of Dune. So we are going into a monarchy. No, not in a monarchy, in what do you call it? Perhaps dictatorship, because God Emperor looks like a fusion of state and religion, which you can do that, but I think history has shown that it's not the best idea most of the time. Heretics of Dune, so they will overthrow the God Emperor perhaps. And the last one is Chapter House Dune. And I have no idea what that's about. So, that's what it says on the covers. No other drawing here. And let's just take a look at the first book. Okay. So, oh yeah, it's a dune planet. And we see a person there going to the distance. I don't know how good this cover is. If you've read the book, you already know if this is a good cover or not, but I will find that out soon because I'm gonna read this soon. And yeah. Oh, soon to be a major motion picture, so they probably did this version for the not for the movie, but because the movie's coming out. So yeah, 2 suns, the binary star system, or this one here. So here we have like a moon or a sun, and here we have another moon or a sun, but we don't know if it's a binary system or if this is the sun and this is the moon, or if those are both planets. You know, in the night, if you see a planet from a bit farther away, you just see a spot of light, so to speak, if you don't use a very good telescope. Yeah, so nothing on it here. But yeah, I'm not gonna look at the other covers, by the way. I'm just gonna look at this one because I'm gonna review this one. And you will see that review soon. I mean, in 3 or 2 seconds. Perhaps a bit longer. And I will do the review in about a week or 2. So, you will see Future Morthian sometime. So, just the last thing to do, read the cover. Let's just do that. Set on the desert planet Arrakis, Dune is the story of the boy Paul Atreides, who would become known as Muad'Dib. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And of a great family's ambition to bring to fruition humankind's most ancient and unattainable dream. That's interesting. I'm already intrigued what the dream will be. Let's guess. Peace? That would be a bit shallow, probably. Transcendence, something like that? Don't know. Might be peace. But peace is a hard thing. That's very complex. Such a complex idea. Unfortunately. A stunning blend of adventure and mysticism, environmentalism and politics. Dune won the first Nebula Award, shared the Hugo Award, and formed the basis of... Okay, it's just telling me what it did. But yeah, so we only have this one paragraph. So it's about Paul Atreides, who will be known as Muad'Dib. And I don't know if we find this out in this book. So that might be this one. This person here might be Atreides. Anyway, that was my preview. And the next thing you will hear of me regarding this container of books is what I thought about the first one. So see you in 2 seconds for you, and 2 weeks for me. Well, hello there, great person. So, yeah, you just heard past Marty, the Marty of the time when I did not read Dune yet. And I have read Dune. And I think I took about 1.5 days to read the first book because I just got sucked into it, and it was, was pretty good. It was very, very good. And I was quite excited to dive into it, and it was just started reading and didn't stop until lunch in the evening, and then dinner. And then the next day I kept reading, and it was quite interesting because I read it on a dune, on an island called Dune, and so it was quite fitting to read it. But so my review. So I will just do a spoiler-free review now, and I will after that do some things that I will talk about some things that I found interesting, but only perhaps a bit more roughly, because I'm probably going to do many more videos about this, because there is so much I could talk about and I want to talk about. But right now I just want to give my first impressions, perhaps tell you about what characters I liked and what I thought about the spies and the story and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we should start with a spoiler-free review. So, what is Dune about? I now know what Dune is about. It's about basically the planet Arrakis, I would say. And even though there are many people involved, it's about the planet. And it's about the change of leadership in the planet in a way, but it's also, and we can't forget that it's about Paul Atreides. And yeah, I will pronounce the names the way I thought of them. There might be some that you think I mispronounced, but I've actually looked up some of them, and I will call Paul and the family, I will call them Atreides, even though they are probably pronounced Atreides, which is the Latin version, I think, because you, if there is an EI, you pronounce them separately, you know? So normally it's Paul Atreides, but I will call him Paul Atreides because it's how he's called everywhere. Yeah, so it's mainly about Paul as well, and about the prophecy surrounding him, which is, wow, that was so interesting. And it was very, very, very deep. And actually, in the past years, we had some interesting developments in that direction in physics and philosophy, where, yeah, I will talk about that another time, but that is really interesting what happened there with the prophecy stuff and the effect the spies had on the people and stuff like that. That's so interesting. It's so great. Such a great idea. And I know that at that time it probably was just theory, all of that, but I think there were many things that Frank Herbert inadvertently had quite right. And I think I know a lot about what went on scientifically in the background and all the stuff you might think as mysticism, with only a bit of sci-fi fantasy that is quite plausible. So I will talk about that later, or perhaps even in another video, but that I was, yeah. So Paul Atreides is destined to be the Emperor Muad'Dib that will bring the struggle across the galaxy, and that's what he dreams. I don't think he dreams about that in the beginning, but that's where his dreams lead him, and his dreams are in a way prophetic. And that's not really it, though. But that's how it would seem to someone who isn't in the lore, perhaps, of this. So Paul is living on a planet where there's a lot of water, and his father is the Duke of that planet, so the owner, and the father is a part of the Landsraad, which is actually Dutch, I think, or German. It's not completely German, because our word would be Landsraad and not Landsraad, but it's quite similar. So it's like all these planets, they've formed like different state. It's like the US. If you have many states in the US, and every state has the governor, and it's the same here. There are many states, many planets, and every planet has their own ruler, and they might be a baron, they might be a duke, and yeah, I don't think we have. Henring was a count, I think. I don't know if he was from a planet, though. I think he was from the planet the Emperor was from, the Emperor before Paul. So yeah, they have this system, and all these houses obviously want power, and they have their little schemes. And Paul is one of those family members from the Atreides family, and I think I'm going to call them Atreides because that's how they're called when you take the Latin version of the name. So Paul Atreides and his family, they are quite popular in the Landsraad, which is this planetary group, and they have the power together in a way with the Emperor. So there's an Emperor and there's the Landsraad, and the Emperor is like a force that is fighting a bit with the Landsraad, but not directly and not openly. And yeah, there's a lot of things to consider there, which I'm not going to go into here. But yeah, there's this tension between the Emperor and the Landsraad, and Paul's father, Leto Atreides, is a very renowned man of the Landsraad, and he might even rival the emperor in popularity and perhaps even cunning in a way. There are some 1 or 2 sentences where that was alluded to. So yeah, they're a thorn in the emperor's eyes. I don't know if you say it in English like this. And so the emperor, he gifts this planet to the count, the Duke Leto Atreides and Paul and his family, and the planet is of course Dune or Arrakis as it's originally. I mean that the real name is Arrakis, but everyone calls it Dune, I think. Well, not everyone, but it's a colloquial term in a way for Arrakis. And so they go there, and it's very early in the book. I think it's chapter 2 or 3 that we get the perspective of another person from another house of the Landsraad, which is Baron Harkonnen. And he is straight out, it's in the book, and I love that part. That alone, and I'm just summarizing right now, that alone was so great. But Baron Harkonnen, immediately it's clear they want them gone. And Baron Harkonnen seems to be in league with the Emperor to get rid of Atreides. And they have this plan, this trap, because Dune originally, or before the Atreides family, Dune belonged to Harkonnen territory in a way. So the Baron Harkonnen was the leader of, not the Baron, but his nephew was the leader of the governor of Dune or Arrakis. So yeah, so that's where we set out. And you might ask, why would someone want this desolate wasteland that you see here around me? So it's just mainly desert. The whole planet is mainly desert. There's no flowing water. There are polar caps, but water doesn't seem to flow. And if there's a water well dug, water disappears. A bit mysterious, but we get an answer to that in a later chapter. And yeah, so they go there, and why do they go there? Because that planet has something called spice, which I will get into later. And spice is like a substance that is one of the best MacGuffins I've ever seen. And it's not, I think calling it a MacGuffin is doing it a disservice. It's a great concept. Spice is really the essence of Dune, because it sets everything in motion, and yeah, we will get to that later. But so that's the story. They go there and stuff happens that makes obviously there are problems there, because as I said, there's this conflict, and this conflict stuff is gonna happen because of that. So that's basically what Dune is about, firstly. But yeah, so I think we might get into more details now, and from here on out, I will dive into spoiler territory. So if you want to read the book, which I advise you to do, because it's one of the 2 best sci-fi stories I've ever heard, and I think it's my favorite. If you don't count books that are just one book, it's my favorite sci-fi story, and I haven't even read a lot. I have read Dune and Dune Messiah, so it's shaping to be my favorite sci-fi story right now, because there is so much stuff and so much clever things that are also not on the surface but below the surface of the story, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, read the book, and if you just wanted to know if you should read the book before watching the movie, which is coming out soon, and where I reacted to the trailers, and it was trailers looked good, might be a faithful adaptation, I hope. And that's it for my spoiler-free reviews. So first impressions, I loved everything about the book, save for one thing, which might have been because I'm not a native speaker. Because in the book, as soon as it starts, the people, of course, talk about their world in a natural way. So they use terms that are native to their world, but I had trouble discerning them from English words I didn't know. So, and just it was a bit unlucky. There is a glossary in the end, so you can look up everything in the end. You can look up what everything means. So I could have looked that up, but I didn't know it was there, which was unfortunate. If I had known it was there, I would have no problem. I would have had no problems. And that was my only problem with the book. And it's a minor problem, and it's a problem that could have been solved if the people who created the version I read were a bit more. Yeah, I mean, it would have just had to be some little hint that there is something in the appendix. You know? Other than that, I don't have any negative things to say about it, which baffles me because if I am honest about things, I have negative things to say about almost everything. And I don't have negative things to say about this because everything there was great. There might have been one thing I also didn't really like, but it's debatable if that's because it was badly handled or if it's just because it was supposed to be this way. And I will talk about that later. But that was my spoiler-free review. So if you want to read the book, please. Just read it, do yourself the favor. And after this, we will get to know. Well, we won't get to know, but I will talk about what I thought of spoiler things. So, yeah, if you want to leave now, it's okay. Have fun with the book, I hope. And for all the others, let's dive into the other things that are happening here. So, let's start with the protagonists. What did I think about the protagonists? And you might even challenge me on this list, because these are the, I don't know if there's an official list or something like that, but these are the people that I thought were the protagonists of the story. The first one obviously is Paul. Paul Atreides is the protagonist. He's the son of Leto Atreides, and I love Paul. One of my favorite characters. I think my second or third favorite character of the book, because he was a true person, and I think that's because of his upbringing, because I loved his father as well. And yeah, I mean, he was raised by many good people, and the Atreides house has these moral values that are supposed to be ethically sound, which of course they are not, and the book doesn't pretend they are, but to the perhaps more simple frame of reference or simple frame of interpreting things, they are the good guys, which they are not, but they are the good guys on the first glance, and there's not a lot of bad about them, to be fair, but they're not completely good, of course, no one is. So he was brought up in an environment where there was a lot of, and yeah, by the way, that's Paul. I guess that's Paul or Shani. I don't know if it's Paul or Shani, but I can't tell from the back, but I mean, black hair, it's probably Paul in the still suit. So he was brought up on honor, on ethics, on moral. He was brought up as a mentor. So he was brought up as someone who can, in a way like a computer, take things, facts, and predict things, of course, which was cool. He was brought up in the Bene Gesserit way, and I know you might pronounce them differently, but Bene Gesserit is, as far as I know, if my Latin doesn't betray me, it means to carry out. He or she will carry out greatness or good. That's what it means, and their way is also in Paul, and he learned their way. So the Bene Gesserit way is like he can tell people's intentions, emotions, and the mentored way is like he can calculate possible scenarios a bit, like tactics, military knowledge. In a way also predict people's actions, but based on facts, not on emotional feeling or connections they feel, in a way. And so he was brought up in an interesting way, and I already liked that. And the way the book starts, when he is called into this room by the Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother, Is that the name? I hope it's the name. The Reverend Mother, Mohiam, I think. Yeah. So he has this test, which we saw in the trailer, and the test is great. Test is something I'm gonna make a video about because that's such a great idea. It's so deep. So he has to put the sand inside the box, and he is threatened with a needle. If he moves, he dies, and he has to endure the pain to see if he's human and not an animal. And that is already that is Jung. That is Carl Jung, and it's also a bit Freud, and it's also generally neurologically speaking very interesting and very true. And that I read that part. I think it's chapter 1. I read that. I was into the story because it was so good. It was so clever. It was so good, and there was so much in that philosophy. Also because of the Butlerian jihad that is in there, that got me. And I didn't know about. I think the Butlerian jihad is only mentioned once in chapter 1 a bit. I think it's one line, but there's some comments in the trailer reactions told me about it, and yeah, I knew about it, but yeah. So and then Paul goes in there, and you get to see his thoughts, and he seems to be a really good guy. He wants to do good, even though in the end he ultimately in a way fails, but he wants good. He has prophetic dreams, and that is interesting. I think he only had one or at maximum 2 dreams about Shani. It wasn't that he was always dreaming about Shani. He was dreaming about the future, because his mentored and Bene Gesserit ways were in a way combining maybe and giving him this prophetic nature. So he was calculating the future based on facts and emotion, that's so genius. That's exactly right. I think it's brilliant. So he can see the future, and he is perhaps the Kwisatz Haderach, which is also, I don't know what that means, but I don't know from which language that is. But if Haderach, if you take that as German, it's not directly German, but it sounds as something like in German, which I would translate as struggles with revenge, which is also perhaps something he does in a way, but it might not mean that. I don't claim that it means that, but that is something that, from a German perspective, that would be the thing I would translate it as if it was a German word, which I don't know if it is, but it means someone who struggles with revenge, and yeah, and it's a bad struggle. It's a very deep emotional struggle with revenge, but I don't know if that's correct. So, and he might be this person. And of course, this Kwisatz Haderach is something that the Bene Gesserit bred or tried to breed, and they managed to do it. Obviously, with Paul, we know that, and with Alia, and yeah, but they don't believe it. And in this, I can say this. I think I read the Dune Messiah a bit, and there was this part where they point to the Bene Gesserit and they say, "You were so stupid that you did not see that he was the Kwisatz Haderach." There were I think they list 5 or 6 things that they could have seen, and that I thought, yeah, you could have seen that you were stupid. But of course, they were a bit arrogant, and that's great. The Bene Gesserit they're great. They have political power. They have undermined in a way a lot of things because they want to breed this Kwisatz Haderach, and they are arrogant because they think they are always right in a way. It's very deep. It's not that obvious that they are, but I got the feeling and the impression that they were a bit like that, especially the Reverend Mother Mohiam. Yeah, that. So, and then they move to Arrakis, and we learn about the people of the Atreides clan, so to speak. They move there, and Paul moves there, and then they are betrayed, and he has to go into the desert, and he struggles in the desert, and that's so great. And then he goes there, he escapes the worms, and he's doing everything, and then the fight with Yamis, wow, that was so good. And he didn't even, it's like the way he respected the Fremen culture. That was such a great part of his character. And because he respects the Fremen, And yeah, it's funny. He's supposed to be the true heir of obviously Arrakis, because it belonged to his father, and the Harkonnen obviously took it back, and the Sarduka of the Emperor also took it back with them. But it's his in a way, and he doesn't really want it. He wants to be with the Fremen, and I got the impression that and I don't think it's that explicit in the book, I got the impression that Paul Atreides is doing it because he wants the dream of the Fremen to come to fruition, because you think that is a good dream. And that's something so lovely. And obviously, yes, he wants to get revenge. But in a way, he has to balance, probably internally, he has to balance the revenge he wants to take for his father, for his family, for all the people he loved that got betrayed, that got ended. And there he has the Fremen dream that's also living inside him, and the Fremen culture, which gave him a home again. And yeah, and it's obviously they always plan on using the Fremen as this fighting force in the war, and we know that from early on when Leto discusses that. But Paul doesn't really. Yeah, he knows his father wants a desert power, but the way he gets that desert power his father wanted is so different from what his father wanted to do. He wanted to, he sent Duncan there to infiltrate it in a way. It wasn't that honest. It wasn't that honest. So, yeah, and then Paul, of course, he gets the Fremen to rally behind his cause, and in the end, he gets the throne of the Emperor. He gets the throne. He gets what he set out to do in a way, but I will talk about that later. So in a way, it's the hero's journey. He is sheltered on Caladan, he goes to Arrakis, he falls down, he struggles, he has to learn something, and he learns everything in a way, and then he has to take it back and be a better person. And in the end, he is a better person in a way. But in any case, he's a more developed person. He grows up. So that's Paul. I will do another video about Paul, but that's Paul. So next protagonist I noted down, Jessica, Lady Jessica. She's a Bene Gesserit, and it's also so interesting. So she conceived Paul because she wanted to honor her love for Leto, and even though she's not his wife by law, she's his wife by heart. She is his wife by heart, and that's so lovely. It's such a great relationship, and the way that Leto also acts with her, it's so great that he respects her. And yeah, she goes against her orders, so she is a Bene Gesserit, and in that way she can also tell a lot about people and what things could be, and she can. So it looks like she can control what gender her baby will be, and she was supposed to get a girl, so the girl can be married to what was his name? Frodrata. Let me look it up. I've noted it down for later anyway. What? Feyd-Rautha. The I think, or Rabban. I don't know, one of the two. She was supposed to, the child was supposed to get married to them. So the Harkonnen and Atreides were supposed to connect again, because they had this family feud, because an ancestor of Leto banished a coward ancestor of the Harkonnens, banished or something like that after a battle because they were cowards. So, yeah. And Jessica gets Paul. And with that, he gets the Kwisatz Haderach. And she also gets another Kwisatz Haderach, I think, with Alia, in a way. So, yeah, and she loves him, and she distrusts people there, but she does what Leto does, and in the end she manages to escape with Paul. And when she goes to the Fremen, that's so great. So she, in a way, she becomes a real Reverend Mother. I mean, everyone does the ritual that she does in the caves with the water of the worms, the water of life. I think every Reverend Mother does that, but she does it. I had the impression it was more true. So she becomes a very true Reverend Mother that is not bound to the whims of the Bene Gesserit people, women that are normally ruling in a way. So she finds her own truth in the Bene Gesserit way. And she becomes the Reverend Mother of the Fremen. And she bears, she gives birth to Alia. And she becomes the Oracle of Fremen. And that's so great. And she can fight as well. She's the woman in the trailer. I didn't notice it. I thought it was the maid. No, it was the mother. Such a great character. Paul has a great mother and a great father. Such great parents. Flawed a bit. And Jessica is flawed as well. But she's also a true person. She wants love for Paul. And she wants love for Alia. And yeah, in the end, she gets what she wants in a way that Paul gets the throne, Alia gets to be born and true, and of course she makes the mistakes of drinking the water while Alia's in her womb. So I'm so curious where that will lead, because right now I don't know. I just know that Alia might be in love with Duncan Idaho, the ghoul gala thingy. It was the latest chapter I just read. I just read that about an hour ago. So yeah, where she peeks through the hole and sees Duncan's gula. I will have to look up that word again. I haven't read it enough. So yeah, that's Jessica. Very great character as well. I mean, every character is great, but okay. So which main character? The protagonist. I put the Atreides clan as a third protagonist. I don't want to go into every one of them. I will do videos on them later, somewhere down the line, for each and every one. But yeah, they're these honorable people, and they get destroyed for that. It's in a way like, and I think that George R.R. Martin, and perhaps not willingly, but subconsciously perhaps, he got inspired by Dune in a way when he wrote the scene where the Starks are destroyed by the Lannisters in the first book. This is like that, but better, because here we immediately know that there is a conspiracy, and we know that it's gonna work in a way. We know that there's gonna be a consequence, and I love that. You know, it was the second chapter where Baron Harkonnen talks to his Peter de Vries and Fate Router. I'm sorry, I always forget his name. Yeah, he talks to them and he says, yeah, and we've reprogrammed this doctor. And the Atreides clan, everyone is so loyal. They're so loyal. And all they want is the Duke and Paul to be safe and to be good. And they don't care for their own lives in that regard. They rather have them survive. And that's so great. I mean, Duncan dies for them. And Huat dies for them in the end. And Yue dies for them in a way. And that was also so great. I'm just gonna talk briefly about that because I didn't plan on talking about it here, but when Yue, why he is a traitor. That was great. You thought, oh yeah, he's just a traitor. No, he was the traitor. He betrayed everyone. Harkonnen and Atreides. Everyone. Not himself, but everyone else. Just because he knew that his beloved, his Wana, was gone. He knew that. He just wanted to make sure, and he planned for it, and he planned for the Baron. He got the Baron almost. And he was a traitor. And that is the best fitting description for him, because he betrayed every single person in this conspiracy in a way. And that was so great. It was so great. And it's a fitting name, and it's not a bad name even. Yes, it's bad what he did. It was bad, but I mean, we know it couldn't have happened otherwise in a way, but yeah, it is so great. So yeah, they are so loyal, and that's also in the first third of the book, when we are with the Atreides a lot, when this conspiracy dwells up, and we know it's a trap. We know Arrakis is a trap set for Duke Leto to fall into and the Atreides to fall into. We know that, and everyone in a way knows it as well, and they suspect each other, but they are themselves loyal, and in the end they think it's Jessica because she's a Bene Gesserit in a way, because they think she was planted, and that was all a plan. And it was in a way all a plan, but they don't know that she went against the plan. And the love that Leto and Jessica have for each other, that's so great. Such a beautiful love, such a beautiful love, that they trust each other. And that scene where Leto tells Paul, tell her I love her and I never suspected her, that's one of the best things there in that part. Wow. So yeah, another protagonist, and you might find this debatable, but for me, he's a protagonist. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is a protagonist in my mind. He is a bad man, and you could place him as an antagonist, and I think that would be fine as well. But in a way, he struggles too, and when I went into this reading, and I had seen the trailers, and I had read some of your comments, I thought that Baron Harkonnen would be this genius mastermind in the background that got everything under control. You wouldn't get to him, and you would take 6 books to get to him, and then he was outwitted in a genius way. No, that's not what he was. He was quite clever, but he was dumber than I thought, and I don't mean that in a demeaning way. He was refreshingly dumb, because he was so arrogant, and that caught me off guard in a way. But he was cunning, he was mean, he was disgusting. He was like with his child things that was so disgusting. And when he thought about oh, he looks a bit like my nephew, that boy, when he went into his room, and yeah, he lays out the trap to get more power and more influence, and perhaps to get not him, but one of his successors on the throne of the emperor. That alone was great. He wasn't this bumbling idiot who wanted the throne for himself. He knew he wouldn't get it. He wanted the throne for his successors. And that's why he tried to make Feyd-Rautha into this great man. And he set this up so he could get the emperor on his side in a way, and he could get the Landsrat on his side all in one. And it was a clever plan, and he wanted to get the monopoly is that where you said, on spies, which is obviously very powerful, because Arrakis is the only planet that spies exist, and spies is the most treasured thing in the whole book. It's even more treasured than water in a way on Dune. Perhaps debatable, but that's great. And that's his, and he even says in the beginning, he's a bit, I don't know what he says. He says something like he's sorry, or he doesn't mean them harm in a way that he's angry at them, the Atreides family. But he's doing some messed up things. But yeah, he fails. He fails so much. He doesn't kill Paul and Jessica. He doesn't turn Yue. He doesn't get his son, his nephews, anything good. The way that was so good. I thought he would get that the Fremen were so powerful, and he didn't care for them. It was his downfall. It was so great. That was something I haven't read, where it wasn't like, oh, I knew about you Fremen, and I have 60,000 more Sardaukar on my side. No, he just didn't think that because he was so arrogant and that was in his character, and he failed miserably, and I think he wanted stability. He wasn't, I felt with him. I wanted him to achieve something. He didn't achieve anything in the end, perhaps. Perhaps that's I don't know. Perhaps write in the comment what he really achieved with his schemes. I mean, he got Paul and the Emperor, made the Emperor, but yeah, so interesting. So, do I have, I don't have other protagonists here. There are other people, of course, but I don't really count them as protagonists. You could say that some of the Fremen are, but I will make videos on them, like on Chani, on Kynes. I will make videos on them, so I will not talk about them here. And they are very important people, but they are. I would say that they are strong supporting cast. That's what I would say. Okay. Well then, let's talk about the antagonists here. The people I really consider antagonists, and you could put the Baron here. That's debatable. Really is. But it's also, I also, I put him there because you see so much through his lens. So he might be it's not an anti-hero, but it's so difficult to place him. I mean, he does some messed up stuff, but yeah. Okay, so I've got two antagonists. The Kadisha Emperor is my first antagonist that I have here because he's this force in the background everywhere. I did not expect him to show up in the end. I did not expect that. So yeah, he's obviously the ruler, and it was his plan. And it wasn't the Baron's plan. It was his plan in a way that to get rid of Atreides because Leto was getting too powerful, too much in the Landsrat, and he just wanted him gone. He didn't care. He just wanted power. And when he marries Irulan to Paul in the end, that's still, he just wants power. He wants his line to be conserved. He's just this typical arrogant, not personal arrogant, but this typical person, I think, he just wants power and doesn't care. If he gets the power, yeah, he wants more power. And he shows respect for Leto, of course he does, and that's in this passage where Irulan talks about him, where she says, in another life they could have been best friends, and I think that's true, because I think he got corrupted down the way. I think he's like Leto, but corrupted, a corrupted version of Duke Leto. That's so good. And we just heard about him and his Sarduka that were so strong, which they were red shirts, they were wolves. I mean, sorry, they were wolves. You just got this was just showed on tell. The Sarduka was, I mean, okay, not I mean, with the pogrom, they did some damage there, but that's just for show. Not for show. There was just the appearance. In truth, they lost so much. So the Sarduka are supposedly the strongest force in the universe, and they belong to the Emperor, but the Fremen just slapped them around, which was great. I liked it. But yeah, so they're from Salusa Secundus, Salusa Secunda, SS, the prison planet. And yeah, that's also an idea that is thrown around once or twice, that the Atreides or Harkonnen could make Dune into a second SS planet to get the Fremen to the level of the Sarduka, which they already were far beyond. But yeah, so, and we don't know that much about him actually, but for me he felt like the antagonists. And there's the second antagonist, and that is my favorite part of, not my favorite, but this is one of my absolute favorite parts of the book. The second antagonist for me is the future and destiny in a way. And the jihad that is coming, that Paul sees, we know it's coming. It's always there in the book. It's always again and again, it pops up a bit, and you know the future's doom. and you know you're on this hero's journey with Paul and everyone, and you love them and you want to go with them, and you know there is doom in the end. You know it's gonna fail. You know this is gonna be so terribly, terribly wrong. And Paul, that so greatly written, when Paul always goes against this and he tries his best, and that shows that he's a good man, in my mind. He has this destiny, this terrible, terrible fate that he's always seeing, and he knows it's there. And right now I'm reading Messiah, as I told you, and he's saying there's a way out of there, and I will do it, and it says a terrible price. I hope it's not Shani's life or something like that, but let's see. Or his second firstborn's life. But yeah, that's for me the second, and the primary antagonist, the future that's about to come, and that's Paul is fighting against, and that the other heroes, heroic characters, in a way, they act heroically, they act for their people, they act for their in good faith, and everything they do brings them closer to the future they want to avoid, or that Paul knows is gonna come. That was so good. I did not expect that. This is the first time that a concept was that was. Perhaps there were other times, but I don't remember that there were other times where this was the case, that a concept is the antagonist. It was the concept of the future. It was what the Bene Gesserit and the Mentats and all their techniques and knowledge brought forth, and which they aimed for, in a way. This bringing of the person that can transcend time and space, and they did, and with that they brought about this future, or perhaps it brought about itself, and I don't know. It's always, perhaps it's a bootstrap, I don't know, but wow. So that's for the notable people I want to discuss in this video. So we'll just go to the next thing, which I absolutely loved, which was spies. Spies. How can you take something so simple and do so much with it? That was so great. So spies. First, it is just this, and because of how it's written, for me, it was always that the spies was so natural to the world that they talked about it again and again, and you got the glimpses on what it did slowly. You know, now that I read the whole book and thought about it, I understand what spies does, but you don't write. There's nowhere a sentence that says spies is the thing that keeps the world going. I mean, there is the sentence, but you don't understand the meaning. But because you always read the little passages about spies that are scattered throughout the book, you know the meaning. So this sentence, spies is everything in the universe, and the spies must flow as. You don't understand that until you read the whole book. And that's so good, so great. And so what is spies? Spies is only on Arrakis, which makes Arrakis such a valuable planet, and that's so good. So what does spice do? Spice is like a substance which enhances mental capabilities. Depending on the person that takes them, it enhances others. Why is it? How did it come to be that they needed the spice, or that they tried the spice and used it? It was because their AI was rebelling or revolting. They revolted against the AI that they created, that we just now create, because it's in the future. So there was AI, artificial intelligences, and they were forbidden. But I mean, you have to still have a world working. You still have space travel. You still have you still have all these calculations, like weather, like the guild and did, and how do you overcome this void that is left behind by the computers that are gone. And they discovered that spies did enhance mental abilities, so they trained people in more ways, but those are the two that survived, at least that I know of. Perhaps they survived more and we will get to know them, or I will get to know them in further books, but the Bene Gesserit and the Mentats. And in a way, the Guild Navigators, but that's Dune Messiah mainly. So I'm not gonna go into that. I'm gonna go into that when I talk about spies in another video a bit more. So, and what that means and what that might be scientifically, because I mean, it's of course thought up, but it is so close to what I could imagine happening that I want to talk about it one day. So, anyway, they train certain people to do computers work. So they train Mentats to calculate mathematics in a way in the guild. That trains these people to navigate through space. And I don't know what exactly they have for acceleration. I guess it's warp technology, because hyperspace technology or stuff like that doesn't seem very likely that you would need a navigator that knows where to fly. So I think it's warp space that they have, something like that. That seems plausible. So spice is the key to computers in a way. I mean, it's like if you own spice, you own the source of computers. Like if you could say, okay, I own computers nowadays, imagine what power you would have. That's the power that spice has in that world, in Dune. And that's so powerful. And it has more powers, because when Paul takes it on Arrakis in higher concentrated doses, he becomes the Muad'Dib, the true Muad'Dib. He becomes the Kwisatz Haderach. He transcends time and space, not fully, but almost completely. And so spice is like everything, and I love that. And it was just, all the time, it was just the stupid dust that I saw, and it was on the cover. I mean, you've seen that in the beginning of this video when I looked at the covers 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I thought it was just dust, but it's everything. Spice is the universe of Dune in a way. So yeah, that is exceptionally great and geniusly done. So the worms. I'm briefly going to talk about the worms. I'm going to make another video when I know more about it, and when I figured out exactly how they come to be, because obviously it's in the appendix, but I didn't really get it because it was... Yeah, I have to read that again. I didn't really get that. So they come from sand trouts in a way, and they are these giant desert dragons in a way that guard the spies because it's their mating ground, I think, or where their young are, or it has a function that has to do with their mating, I think, or something like that. And as far as I know, but I don't know if I got that wrong, spice is their poo that they let into the desert. That's why. Yeah, and those are the reasons why they're protective of these spice fields, and the spice fields or spots are everywhere in the desert, and humans come with their crawlers, factory crawlers, drop them down, they mine spice until the worm shows up, and the worm sign comes, and then they fly away with what they got and what they gathered. So the worms are like the protectors of the spice, and I've read that Frank Herbert saw them as the dragons that guard the treasure, which is an ancient idea. And yeah, and the Fremen are the people that tame the dragons in a way. Wow, that's so good. And so the Fremen know about the worms, they ride them, and that is also so greatly done. The worms in the beginning of the book are these demon creatures that you are afraid of, and they if they come, you have to go, and you're afraid for the protagonist. And then there's this passage where they are with the Fremen, and then suddenly And there's this myth that I think there is a sense about there might have been people on the worm in the distance, and then it comes. They ride the worms, they tame them in a way, not completely, but they know how to navigate with them, and that is such a powerful thing. That is such a great, powerful thing. And then Paul rides his worm, and they become men because they have conquered the demons, literally, in a way. So that's what I wanted to say about worms. That's absolutely great. Technology. So we don't learn a lot about technology, but what I want, and I will do some theories about what could really be there in the background, because I don't think I found something that is implausible yet from a physics perspective. If you give perhaps a little leeway and are a bit dreamy, I think there is nothing where I said this is not possible. This is not possible. So I think that everything they have here, and that is so genius from him, because I think Frank Herbert, I think he knew that technology was advancing more and more rapidly, so he made sure he could write a book that would be timeless, because he said that with introducing the Butlerian Jihad, he had the tool to make his world plausibly the way he knew the world, in a way. You know, there were some sci-fi concepts like laser weapons, which is so fascinating. You know, lasers were, I don't know how long they were known. I mean, really used, they weren't really used. Perhaps 1960, when were lasers used? I mean, they are quite new. And that he used them here as las guns, and perhaps that they weren't even supposed to be lasers, but yeah. And they have the nuclear weapons, of course, they have them. They have the shields. That's a bit sci-fi stuff, and that's perhaps the part where I say that it's a bit implausible, perhaps, but everything else was plausible, I think. And then the ornithopters, which, again, I was a bit sad that they didn't really describe them. I mean, they said they had wings and stuff like that, but there were parts where I would have liked so. And he looked at the ornithopter and saw its two wings on the side, lying there like a resting bird, whatever. Something like that would have helped me in the beginning. But yeah, so that's what I like about the technology. It's like a technology that he could write, and that is timeless in a way, and it still makes sense for 20,000 years in the future. It's so good. Shows what a great writer he is. So, let's talk about my favorite chapters. What were my favorite chapters? There were 3 chapters I really enjoyed, even more than all the others. There was not a single chapter I didn't like. I loved every chapter, but 3 stood out to me. 3 chapters that really stood out to me, and I couldn't believe how good they were. And funnily, 2 are the appendices. One is about the Bene Gesserit, and the other is about Kynes when he goes to and starts thinking about the terraforming process. The chapter where Kynes starts thinking about the terraforming is my favorite chapter, because the way he sees this, the way he thinks, that really shows you something. And the way it's described, and then the part where the guy ends himself because he falls on his own blade, because something, I don't know, but that was so good. And that whole chapter, that he just wants to make Arrakis better for everyone, and he doesn't want it for himself, and he doesn't want it for himself, and the Fremen don't want it for themselves. They want it for their grandchildren, and they know it's 500 years in the future. And the fact that when he tells them it's gonna be 500 years, 400, 500 years perhaps, and then he calculates it by gathering some data, and then he says again it's 500 years, and they say, yeah, we do it. That was my favorite part of the book, because it was not for themselves, it was not for their children, not for their grandchildren, it was for far down the line, and they did it, and they worked their asses off, and they had to fight against the Harkonnen suppression. And he was just the guy who woke the stream in the Fremen, and I loved that so much, that chapter. That meant a lot to me. That meant really a lot to me, and I loved that chapter. Second chapter, the Bene Gesserit, because I liked, or no, not the religion of Dune. That was so realistic. So realistic. I have never seen someone write about religion in a fictitious world this realistically. And I think if we go 20,000 years into the future and stuff happens a bit like that, like we find spies, and that might happen. That might happen. They have this conference, and that's something I've thought about as well. And I'm kind of like that, like the people from the Orange Catholic Bible. You know, I'm someone who says every religion has something that is very, very true. And if you cross out all the differences, you might find a true core that is valuable for life, for social life, for being with each other, for conducting yourself with each other. And that they did this, and they did this conference, and they leaked out things, and people started going haywire because their religion wasn't the true one suddenly, which is it's realistic. People would say that, and then in their lifetime they weren't happy anymore, those people who wrote the Orange Catholic Bible. And only so many years later was it that finally it was one of the accepted religious texts that survived. It was so great. Beautiful. My third favorite chapter is the chapter where Paul kills Yamis. Because the way he conducted himself there, and because you got a feeling that you were there, you got a feeling of what the Fremen truly were in a way, and he was welcomed into their culture with that, and the responsibility of his death, and then the funeral afterwards, and that was so good. You felt the society there, you felt the Fremen. I felt like a Fremen. I mean, I was lying on Dune, the island called Dune though, and I thought, yeah, I want to be with them. Despite the harsh climate and the water shortage, I wanted to be with the Fremen there in that point, because it was a society that people respected each other, but they could challenge each other, and Paul as well, how he conducted himself. He didn't want to end him, and then his different fighting, because he was used to fighting with the shield, which he was an expert at, and it looked like he was playing with him, and they didn't like him, and they knew he was better, and then he ended him, and then he said, yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't, I wanted to, and then they respect him for that, and they found new respect for him. Wow, that was awesome. So those were my favorite chapters. My favorite characters of the book. My favorite character, my absolutely favorite characters is Kynes Senior, because of what I just told you about the dream he inspired, because he was selfless, he was a scientist, he wanted good. I think you can probably guess why I think he's my favorite character from the way I talked about it just now. Paul is also one of my favorite characters because he tries to fight fate. And that's a hard thing to do. And he's a good person. In this book, I don't know how it's gonna go, but in this book, I know he is a good person. And it's always saying he saw what his words inspired, and the blood and endings it would cause through the universe. He is appalled by it. He's appalled by it. I really like him for that, but I've already talked about Paul. And then Gurney. Because Gurney is such a loyal person. I just like that. And then when the Atreides house falls, he goes to be with the smugglers where he had some contacts. And yeah, he's loyal to Paul again when he meets him, and he survives, which is so good. I'm so glad he survived. And he's so loyal. His singing, like, he's inspiring. He's talking truth through his songs, and he suspects Jessica, but he doesn't do anything stupid in the end because he believes her, which was also a strong, strong, strong part of the book. I mean, it had so many strong parts, but absolutely great. Just genius. That was so good. And yeah, my most disliked character. There was one character I absolutely couldn't stand, and I would have wished that he was handled better. And I know that he was probably intended to be this way, and that's fine. But I felt that he was not as complex as the others, and that was Fate Rautha Harkonnen. I could have lived without her. I could have lived with Vladimir Harkonnen trying to give his nephew on Dune his succession. Obviously, it wouldn't have worked so well with the plots, but in the end, he was a bit cunning, yes, and that was almost all I felt with him. I mean, he slept around in the brothel there. He was a sadistic a-hole in the pits. So what? And in the end, he gets ended. I didn't need that last fight with Paul. I think it was a good thing that it was there, and I think the only thing I really like about that fight is when Paul realizes it doesn't matter if I die here or not. It's over. I already lost against fate because he loses in the end. He lost against fate, and in that fight he knows, no, it doesn't matter if I die here. But then obviously he just ends him, just clowns on him. Yeah, and he's so witty, and he tries to outwit his uncle, and Huat is advising him, but also the Baron Harkonnen, and I really didn't get that part. For me, it didn't click for me. I know that he's supposed to be like this, and I think he is supposed to be disliked, and that's okay. So Franco managed to make me dislike him. It doesn't mean that he is badly written in a way, you know. But I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, perhaps I missed something because I'm not a native speaker. I might have missed some nuance. Of course, I'm going to read that book again. But okay, the last thing for today I have is future predictions. What will happen? What will happen? As I said, I have to be honest with you. I read Messiah about 80 pages in, so I know there's a conspiracy to bring Paul down, where Irulan and this sky tail dude woman and Edric and Reverend Mother Mohiam, sorry for that name, they try to bring him down with the psychic abilities of Edric. He can veil or cloak Irulan in a way, her mind. So I think they will fail. I think it will be a cluster F, because Paul can see some things, they can see some things. There's gonna be a tragedy there, and it's brewing, and it's already so strange in the personal court of Paul. It's already rumbling, and Chani is already against that. I'm going to talk about it in my review, Dune Messiah, which is, I loved Chani in one chapter that I just read. It was so good. Her character, wow, that's a woman. So, yeah, what will happen? Paul will die in the end, and manages to make himself look like an idiot or something like that, so people see that he's not the god. That might be. So we have this Idaho Gast Ghoul Gal Gun thing that I forgot the name of, where Alia is falling in love with. What might that be? They might somehow find another planet with spies, perhaps. I don't have any idea. And that's great. I'm looking forward to reading that. Anyway, now I've rambled on for about an hour about this book, so I have a lot more to say. But I will stop here to not get overboard with this. And yeah, if you have other thoughts than me, please let me know. There are things I might have misunderstood during my first reading. There might be things I have misinterpreted. If there are things you would like me to do a commentary or video about in the future, let me know, then I can prioritize that topic. I might do the Bene Gesserit or the spice effects on the mind in the next video. That might be something I might do. But otherwise, if you have other things you want me to talk about or you want my opinion on, let me please know in the comments. And again, thanks the Dune community for giving me this absolutely marvelous series of books to read, which I missed out on. I don't know how I missed out on that, because I normally know all the good sci-fi books. Well, that's not true. I probably only know the most sci-fi movies. I know most sci-fi movies, but not books, because I'm a fantasy book reader. I mean, I've written fantasy books. I've read so many. I've probably read 100,000 pages of fantasy books, and I'm not exaggerating that. For 15 years or so, I lived in fantasy books, and I'm glad that I found this one. And it is a bit fantasy. It seems to be fantasy, but it's so close to reality that it's unnerving for me. Unnerving. And yeah. So anyway, I hope that you have a great day. If you like this, consider liking and subscribing, and I will react to some clips of the movie next. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to your comments, to what I might have missed, what you want to know, what I've thought about things that I might not have discussed here, because obviously I'm already well over an hour and I don't want this to be eternally long. I could probably do a 15-hour video about this, or a 5 to 10-hour video I could do about this series. It's so dense. It's so great. Such a great series. It's gonna be a great show. Yeah, and oh yeah, by the way, I looked into the David Lynch movie. I watched about 10 minutes and then I dozed off. So I might do a reaction to that as well. And I heard there was a mini-series on the Sci-Fi channel. I might check that out too, if you want me to. If you think that's a good thing. So, without further ado, have a happy, scary day. And yeah, may Muad Deep be with you. See you around. Bye.